All right, what triggered the spate of publicly reported sightings of the Hibagon, the Japanese Bigfoot, here in Hiroshima Prefecture between 1970 and 1982? And why did they stop? Now that's two questions, and today we'll just deal with the one. What triggered all those sightings? Nobody knows. And we could end the video right there. We have seen that the creature has been here for hundreds of years, mostly in the background, way back in the inaccessible mountains. And even now, this country is only 73% inhabitable. Government figure. And I think that's a very rosy government figure, taking in a lot of dodgy, marginal, dangerous land that no one should be building on, not even my worst enemy, unless you want to wake up dead, buried at the bottom of a landslide. My family took an afternoon trip up to a magnificent megalithic tomb site yesterday, and after we climbed most of the way up the mountain, we came to this. Stairs out of order. Landslide, a common enough sight. All the way up, we were hugging the side of the mountain. Or at least I was barking at everyone to stay on that side, hug that side, because the edge of the road was collapsed in several places, and you never know if you're walking on top of an undercut. You never know. Hiroshima Prefecture is the least, by far the least, geologically stable prefecture out of 47 prefectures. It's 47 out of 47. And that's in a country that is, anyway, everywhere weak in geological stability. And I think this might be important in understanding the Hibagon. It's important in understanding the human economy and human land usage. So it might be relevant to the Hibagon too. In northern Hiroshima, the primary industry is mining. Mining in highly unstable mountains. Maybe we have a situation where the darn dwarves delved too deep. I think we had in 1970 a displaced group of Hibagon refugees. At least 5 of them, going from footprint sizes. They were mostly juveniles, and maybe all juveniles at that point. Possibly orphaned. Maybe orphaned before they were raised and trained in the Hibagon arts. Hibagon tactics and strategies. Hibagon do's and don'ts. And that's why they were making, from the Hibagon point of view, incomprehensible errors of judgment, as if their mama didn't care to raise them right, because maybe mama was dead. We have assumed, and it was a good assumption, it still is, to assume that this was mama here, but we don't know. This could have been a female adolescent big sister who was not altogether capable of taking care of and ruling her younger siblings. Like Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone, not her fault. Not her fault at all. We have assumed, and it's fine to assume, that this was Papa. But this could be a large adolescent male, a big brother, who was already putting his nuclear family behind him. It could be a male from another group, attracted to Big Sister. Or these might be mother and father, and the whole family got displaced and made Mount Hiba their new sanctuary. And how do you feel when you take a new job in a new city and you're in your new neighborhood? I don't know about you. I feel disoriented. And I can feel like I don't know everything I need to know. And I can screw up. Any new mining project could have displaced a group of Hibagon, forced them to flee to Mount Hiba, where they were caught in a period of confusion and adjustment. Here's another one. The Chugoku Expressway. 540 kilometers of 4-lane highway. Well, it's really half highway and half subway, or maybe more than half subway. So much of it is blasted through mountains. I think it more than half is tunnel. And this expressway opened in 1970. Hibagon appears on Mount Hiba in 1970, about 20 kilometers north of the new highway. It could very well be that a family of Hibagon were vacated out of their Hiba hole by dynamite. And they hightailed it up north, their ears still ringing and bleeding. Maybe some of them were killed. Maybe some of them were deafened permanently. And that's why we see them walking out in front of cars. They can't hear the cars coming. Well, we can imagine quite a few plausible scenarios that fit the known facts. And of course, it's all speculation, but there you go. For me, I'd probably bet on a mining or highway construction, blasting, displacement, and possibly harming of a Hibagon group that would put them off balance and push them into a new area. That would explain the sudden appearance, the erratic, out-of-character behavior, and the juveniles who are really out of control. Okay, so that's my guess. Now, Mailbag. Scott writes about his Bigfoot, his very own Bigfoot, American Hibagon, encounter. I was 18. My then girlfriend and I had a routine. We'd alternate weekends visiting one another. She'd spend a Friday night with me. Next weekend, I with her. Sometimes we'd have Saturday, too. This was a Saturday in the summer of Alabama at about 11:30 p.m., and it was still muggy, hot, and uncomfortable outside. Sometimes we'd take a walk while she was waiting on her ride to pick her up at midnight. We'd walk around the block or so in my neighborhood. Back then, my parents' house was surrounded on 3 sides by private acreage. All old-growth forest, owned by an old man named Mr. Wilcox. Old Man Wilcox, you probably called him. Decades before he bought it, the acreage that our subdivision is located on and his property was all owned by a tree nursery, so it was left untouched. Well, some of the land got sold and turned into our subdivision, and Mr. Wilcox, Old Man Wilcox, why am I picturing him as Old Man Potter, Lionel Barrymore? He kept the rest. A large creek, Hurricane Creek, runs through the middle of this acreage. To this day, the other side of the creek is untouched and unmolested. 80 acres reside on our side of this creek. Well, back to my story. One night, Saturday, midsummer, my girlfriend and I took a walk. We used the downstairs back door, which was on the dark side of the house and closest to the woods. We did that so as not to disturb anyone. We just go take a walk and talk and just spend a few minutes before she had to leave. This night we heard something heavy walking the tree line beside the road. We'd stop, look, and shrug. When we stopped, it would stop. We got to the edge of the tree line where a sewage pumping station was, and it cleared. At the very end of the tree line was a huge lollipop pine tree, about a foot in diameter, right under a street light. Light is still there, tree is not. All of a sudden we stopped and looked at that tree, rapidly shaking, pine cones just dropping out of it. I was getting annoyed, thinking it was one of my friends messing with us, being a jerk. She was getting nervous, so we decided to cut the walk short and go back. Again, footsteps in the tree line. We would stop, it would stop. I'm still entertaining the idea that this is one of my friends, or, at the worst, someone getting ready to assault us, so we get back to my yard. I tell my girlfriend, sit on the steps, leading to the door, about 3 brick steps right next to the door. I was going to go give my friend a piece of my mind. As I walked 30 or so feet towards the tree line, where I last heard the footsteps, I grabbed a small branch. I walked up to an old root ball from a tree that had fallen decades before. Something didn't smell right. It was nasty. It wasn't quite something dead. It wasn't quite body odor. Don't know. It was awful. Girlfriend said it smelled like a dead skunk. So I yell over the root ball. Nothing. I think I may have heard some heavy breathing. Yelled again. Nothing. Then I went and did it. I tossed the stick with a high arch so it landed straight down right behind that root ball. And a black, smelly shadow rose up, then jumped over me. I'm 6'1", and ran on 2 legs across the corner of our yard, from the side to the back, and ran crashing through the woods like a freight train. Fear and adrenaline overcame me, and I ran. Grabbed my frozen girlfriend into the back door, where I panicked and asked her what she saw. What did you see? What was that? She couldn't talk for about 20 minutes. When we finally calmed down, she described exactly what I saw. She didn't know what it was, neither did I. We were together for a long time, and we'd talk about it from time to time, just between us. We eventually figured it was a young male Sasquatch observing probably its first human contact. It seemed to be just observing us. If it wanted me dead, I'd be dead. As scared as I was, I think it was too. Ever since then, and knowing that it didn't harm us, I felt a deep respect for them. Humans have caused a lot of problems on this earth. I can certainly understand why it wants no part of us. Like us, though, I think each one is unique. Henceforth, I won't go willingly looking for them, and I'm very careful where I go camping. If you ever befriend one of these, feel a huge sense of honor and responsibility. If I ever encounter one again, I'm not sure if I'd even tell anyone. Well, Scott, I hope you'd tell me. Wow. Jumped right over your head, and you're a big guy. Jumped over your head, you might say, in a leaping and bounding way, like our Hibagon in Yamane, or that Russian Bigfoot video where he's leaping and bounding over timbers. That's an amazing story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it with us. Now here's someone with an opposing opinion. And listen, she was nice and friendly. She's here in good faith. So I'm not going to read her letter in a goofy voice or put up a pee-pee poo-poo man avatar. Let's take her seriously. Ali Rog Gorilla says, as a believer in Bigfoot and its kin, and also a Photoshop user, Photoshop should be capitalized, I am sorry to have to agree that the man in the photo looks photoshopped. Looking closely at the boots on contact with the ground and the outline of his figure compared to the rest of the photo. Also, the site of which this photo source is obtained has very questionable, if not outrageous, claims, much like a sensationalized grocery store tabloid. And though I'd like to say that the rest of the photo is authentic, how can I, when there is already the discrepancy of said figure? Sorry, guys, this one seems to be a miss, but please keep trying. All right. I spent this morning writing a peer review of an article being submitted to a journal, and it was a really pretty weak article. And in that situation, you want to give a strict critique, an honest critique, and not, you don't want to spare feelings, but you don't want to destroy the person either. You want to be helpful and compassionate, but you don't want to do the person's work either. I answered Ali Rog. I said, I like you. You come here politely and welcome to you. But I have to disagree with you. Photoshop, as you know, is a powerful tool, but it is not magic. And you still have not made an argument. Can you please tell me what about the boots? And what about the outline? And then demonstrate to me, beyond feelings, exactly which pixels are wrong and why. If the photo is fake, you should be able to identify the manipulation and even the tools used. Let me explain. For example, if the man is cut and pasted in there, Ali Rog should be able to tell me and show me how he was he quick selected or magic wanded or magic lassoed, or whoever did this, did he use a pen tool? Were the edges feathered over? Don't don't make me do your work for you, because I see no evidence of manipulation. So these are the kind of arguments and evidence that Ali Rag would have to make. I continue in my answer to Ali Rag. You give nothing like that. And then Photoshop cannot duplicate reality. Look at the man's chin. Look at the brim of his cap. His boots, his whole outline, in light or shadow, against green or gray, he is perfectly reflecting the ambient light off of him. Impossible to do with Photoshop. The limitations of Photoshop prove that the photo is genuine. It is passed by every expert I have submitted it to, including hostile experts who would have loved to point out evidence of Photoshop. It passes forensic image recognition software. Any debunker needs more than feelings and inexplicable attacks on the source. Do you mean me? Fuji TV? The source is a Japanese farmer, unknown to me, but well known to his neighbors as an honorable man. Okay, so I think that's fair to Ali Rag and all challengers. That's kind of the bar that you would have to rise up to. Have an argument, but make your argument. Otherwise,
not an argument. 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 Not an argument.